Hello, and welcome to the top 5 mods of Fallout 4 for March 2023. As before, this will be a mix of the highest rated mods and some personal favourites, and they're in no particular order, and I just want to point out that like 70% of the most downloaded mods this month were NSFW, so yeah, it's one of those months I guess. Anyway, let's get to it. So I'm someone who really does love Fallout 4, but of course I'm not blind to all its faults, with one of the biggest being its dialogue. It almost completely got rid of the skill checks from the previous games, and the dialogue was limited to being nice, rude, or just sarcastic. But that problem is no more, with the Roleplayer's expanded dialogue mod. Over 300 new lines of dialogue have been added to actually give some variety to your specific build. So, for example, if you want to intimidate someone while wearing power armor, you may be able to do that. Or if you want to flex your intelligence to get what you want, you can probably do that as well. And on the opposite end, this mod brings back the iconic low intelligence dialogue, which are always welcome.
Here to collect the caps for the melons you gathered? No, my melon. Okay, just let me know when you're ready to collect your pay.
As for how this naturally fits in, you can toggle on the player voice to speak using AI, which is an interesting topic I talked about in this video, and so yeah, the voice lines don't have to be silent.
Do I look like someone who you can extort for caps? Get lost before I get angry.
Whoa, hey, alright.
Now of course, having the voice as an option is better than nothing, but it's worth remembering that the technology is still in its infancy, and while impressive, it can sometimes come across quite monotone. Anyway, as for the NPC replies, many of these new dialogue options replace the default charisma checks, and so the NPC replies will usually be the same as if you picked one of those. Except this way, playing with high charisma isn't the only way to get what you want. Okay, so this mod is incredibly specific, and it may not look like the most glamorous mod out there, but boy is it great to just have in the background. So first you have NACX, which is a weather, colour and effects mod I always use, and honestly it's one of the best mods for Fallout. Like, it's because of NACX that my game gets to look like this. Anyway, this realistic winds mod adds, wind. So now foliage will blow about depending on the weather, meaning on sunny days, trees will mostly stand still, but when it's overcast and such, the wind will be pushing them around. It's based off the A Bit of Wind mod, which does the exact same thing, except that one is a lot more generous with the wind, and it can get pretty intense, whereas I enjoy the more subtle calmness this one provides. So yeah, it's a very simple mod that really helps make Fallout 4's landscape come alive and feel less static. The Shield integration project has been the hot new thing this month, as it adds a pretty huge gameplay mechanic seamlessly into the world. Using the Shield framework mod that released last month, the Shield integration project adds 8 new riot shields that can be crafted and found on enemies and vendors. And while you'd expect it to feel jank in the creation engine, it actually works incredibly well. Wherever you point to the shield, damage from that direction will either be reduced or completely removed, depending on the weapon type. You can also bonk enemies with it, and enemies themselves will sometimes use the shields, which can make gunfights far more interesting, as you're forced to maneuver behind them. And what takes this mod a step further are the unique models, as each of them are tailored to a specific faction and fit naturally into Fallout's lore. Like, I fully believe the Brotherhood of Steel would use something like this. So just a great mod to shake up your next playthrough. The Institute is one of those things that I think was a good idea, but the execution was meh. Like, their style is just a bit too sterile, and their weapons look a bit lame, and the armour just looks like a toilet. And so I welcome anything that makes the Institute look and feel more unique, and the Photon Disruptor does just that. It's meant to be an early prototype of the Institute energy weapons, that's more crude with exposed wires and such, and so it's far more visually interesting than the usual. It's powerful and hard to obtain, only spawning on synths and Institute staff, and it includes a legendary version that's even more rare. Plus synths that use this are more intimidating, as they're given a special reload animation to reload the weapon quicker than any human, so they'll be firing at a pretty consistent rate. And finally, there's the same amount of customization as you'd expect with a vanilla weapon, with new barrels for range and deadliness, and options for different fire rates. And each of these attachments have their own unique models, so it'll be changing a lot. So it's yet another great weapon mod that fleshes out a weaker side of Fallout 4. Finally, we have a huge bundle of content that focuses on the radioactive side of the world, with new items, creatures, and entire factions. So, first is the new items, with new radioactive rocks that can be used for nuclear scrap. Or they can be used as ammo for the shard cannon, which launches them at your enemies. And another new weapon is the bolt rifle, which fires irradiated nails so you can give people tetanus and radiation poisoning, 2 for 1. Next are the new creatures, with irradiated fireflies, feral ghoul spitters, and fog hunters, which are the stuff of nightmares, although they do remind me of some messed up monsters from Fallout 76. Then there's the new faction, with a raider group called the Divided, being made up of ghouls that are in the middle of being sane and feral. They have a focus on radiation weaponry, and new armours that fit their misshapen bodies. And honestly, it's just such a great concept, because the ghouls in Fallout are always either normal humans with scarred faces, or feral monsters with no humanity left, so it's interesting to see the people in between. And finally, the existing Children of the Atom have new aggressive warriors, again focusing on the new radiation weaponry. So overall, it's a great mod with a ton of content, and the focus on radiation really helps it stand out as something special, especially since I find the overuse of radiation to be one of the most interesting aspects of the Fallout lore. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a like, as it helps the channel grow. And a big old thank you to my Patreon supporters. That's Ryan Dillon, Biggie Boss, Tyler Pullin, Janice, Jake Carlo, Dweezil P. Pants, Rook, Alec Bentley, Jack Ma, and Christian Howell. Whether you're donating $1 or $10 or whatever, it all is a huge help, and it makes it so I can spend more time on these videos, especially since it costs money for the editing software and all that, and so yeah, it's a big help. And I have a Ko-fi account if you want to give a little one-time donation, and other than that, thank you everyone, and farewell. This video needs to get to 8 minutes. Otherwise I can't monetize it. So thank you very much, YouTube, for making me have to sing a little tune. Goodbye.